Are back with another episode of Combos Court. Got my guys in the building today. CP, the Fanchise of Knicks Fan TV, and Dexter Henry of SNY TV, New York Post.
That's right.
What's the vibes, guys? I mean, I bumped into you guys a few times this summer.
Yeah.
Vegas. Saw Dexter at SNY Studios.
You was up there.
I was up there.
CP's a frequent regular there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
How's the summer been?
Summer was good, man. Summer was good. I mean, it feels like the basketball content never stopped. I was talking to CP about that, right? Like, it just never stopped because the Knicks were so busy with stuff. So, yeah, it was a good summer, man. Got to relax a little bit, some time with family, and, just making this content like we all are. So, yeah.
Speaking of content, it was Professor CP out in Vegas, man.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. What'd you learn yourself about content teaching the youngins?
Nah, Vegas is good to me, man. Just being able to work with the Sports Business Classroom with Bobby Marks, and being able to teach as part of the media and broadcasting team. I always have like a passion for teaching. So when he came to me with the opportunity, I was like, I don't even need all the details. I'm like, yo, I'm in. I'm gonna come to Summer League and be able to give back. And so we brought our students through the whole gamut. Like, we had them at the podcast studio, getting podcast experience. We had Tom Crean on the set. We had John Hollinger from The Athletic.
Right.
We had some Raptors Summer League players. So just getting them into the flow of being able to make content and create shows. Then we brought them into media scrum. So after each Summer League game, they would go behind the scenes, interview coaches, interview players about the respective games. We had them go through a mock trade deadline where they were interviewing, fake GMs on trades and moves that they made. So it was really cool just to, number one, work with those students, but also I said it to them during the closing reception. I said, I'm in there as a student too, because I'm working with Howard Beck, J.A. Adonde, Katie Heindel. So, like, just hearing them chop it up on war stories from, their previous ventures and just giving tips to the students as well. I'm just kind of soaking that up to bring to my own show. So it was like a double duty, you know what I mean?
Yeah, speaking of tips, what did you keep reiterating to the youth you kept finding yourself saying over and over and over again?
Yeah, really it's just repetition.
Yes.
A lot of people want to like kind of perfect what they're doing in one take, but it just takes time. It takes extra, energy, extra attention, extra preparation. And, like, as you keep going, as you create more shows, create more content, you become more comfortable in doing it. So I just tell them, like, just know that you're going to get better at it, but you have to just keep going and just do more reps.
We talked about it a little bit. Speaking of Vegas, we talked about Vegas Summer League, me and you, Dexter, a little bit. What was your biggest takeaways? Tyler Kolek.
Oh, with the Knicks?
Yeah, with the Knicks, man.
Yeah, I really loved Kolek, man. Just getting a chance to talk to him a little bit after, and I'd done some content with me and Stephen Bondi talked about this, and CP and I talked about this as well, too. Kolek was my biggest takeaway, just his command of the team, not turning the ball over, how smooth he looked running the offense, and you saw the Knicks kind of just give him the keys at Summer League to do that. I mean, I think he could legitimately be a player. I wonder if he's the kind of player that can push for minutes the way we saw Quickly do a couple of years ago. Ooh. If he plays really well in training camp, right? It's going to be hard with campaign there now, even with them adding Landry Sham. It's going to be hard to get those guard minutes, but I was really impressed with him. I was also impressed with Ariel Huckpurdy. I thought he played really, really well. Him and Kolek looked great together in pick and roll situations. So I was very impressed with the two of those. Those were the two guys that really stood out to me, where it's like, they have a good feel. It'll be interesting to watch how the development is.
Yeah, great toughness, great feel. Another Big East guy, CP.
Yeah.
The Nova Knicks, man. You're not only the biggest, to me, I'll say it, I think you're the biggest Knicks fan in the world, but you're a big sports fan, right? Have you ever seen anything like this in sports? The Nova Knicks, like, this is really different, and I think it's a special time to be a New York Knicks fan.
It's different, man. But, like, as a fan of the Big East, in college basketball, I never really, like, claimed a team. Like, back in the day, it was always Carolina. I always loved his colors and the players.
Was that because of MJ?
Rasheed Wallace.
Rasheed Wallace.
I'm glad it wasn't Duke. I'm just glad it wasn't Duke.
No, I was a Carolina guy, man, with Sheed and Vince and Ed Cota. They always had that squad.
Cota, Brooklyn.
But on the other side, like, I always rooted for the Big East. Like, when Syracuse and Melo had his run, obviously St. John's, UConn on their run. Like, I was always rooting for those Big East teams in the tournament. So when Villanova had those guys, I was rooting for those guys because they just had that underdog mentality. And I had met Jay Wright in as coming up in the basketball game, so I was always rooting for him too. And Mikal Bridges was one of my favorite guys out of college.
Ooh.
And guys know when I started Knicks Fan TV, I'm like, yo, Knicks need a wing. They need to draft this guy. This is easy. 3-and-D player as a minimum, as a floor. they got to draft this guy. And when they passed on him to get Kevin Knox, I was like, yo, what are we doing?
Philly, right? He went to Philly.
He went to Philly.
He was the process. He was part of the process.
Yeah, and then ended up getting traded to Phoenix for Zaire Smith. So, just seeing how this team has accumulated and acquired all these guys from Villanova to come together and seeing how well they play together, it's been incredible to see, man.
Dexter, were you surprised that the Knicks and the Nets made a deal? It's supposed to be a rivalry. It's not good times for the Nets right now, so I don't know how much of that it is. But were you surprised when that went down?
Yeah, I was stunned. I was stunned. I'll never forget where I was. It's funny, 2 of the trades the Knicks made. Never forget where I was with OG. I was with CP when that went down. He was with me in studio, and Jonathan Macri.
Right.
The Bridges trade.
That's right. I remember that. You guys were like, oh.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's a crazy moment. I actually just sent that clip to my boss. They asked for it the other day. They asked for it for some promo they're trying to do. But the Bridges trade, I was at the Liberty's Commissioner's Cup game against the Lynx, and I saw Joe Tsai there. Joe Tsai gets up, leaves his seat. It was in the third quarter, I believe. I thought nothing of it. Like, I'm not thinking anything of it. I'm just like, oh, he's walking by. And then it was like in the fourth quarter, the trade goes down, and I'm on my phone, and I'm like, yo, this can't be. Because I had been saying, like, CP is the guy who said they should have drafted him. I was the person saying this offseason they need to add him. Forget all this talk about Karl-Anthony Towns. Forget all this talk about Zach LaVine. I said the Knicks need to add Mikal Bridges. But what I had been hearing from talking to people around the Nets was, nah, never going to do it. Never. This is not going to happen. Nobody saw it. People I know around the Knicks told me no. People I know, I actually have a lot of ties with the Nets. They were like, nah, this isn't going to happen. So when I saw it go down, I was like, oh, man. Listen, it was a little steep of a price, but I would have paid it too.
We talked about this before. We did a show that the clip actually went kind of viral.
It definitely did.
Me and Kenyon were talking about we would trade Julius Randle for Mikal Bridges, and then you didn't even need to trade Randle for Mikal Bridges.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
It's crazy, CP.
Yeah. I was like, nah, I'm not doing it.
You were the one. You were like, nah.
I was like, nah, that's a lateral move. I was at the Subway Series. Me and my girl was at the Subway Series, Yankees versus Mets. Yankees are getting killed. And she's a Mets fan. I'm a Yankee fan. So I'm like, man, this game is like whatever, man. And this was like top of the 8th. And Yankees, I think it was like 9-2. They lose. And Judge was up, bases loaded. And I had my camera rolling. And he smacks a grand slam. All the Yankee fans going crazy. Like, yo, we about to come back into this thing. And as soon as I posted it to Twitter, my mentions was like, yo, what are you doing? What are you doing? Where you at? Then my guy, shout out JD Sports Talk, he calls me. He's like, yo, where you at? I'm like, yo, I'm at Citi Field. What's good? We got Mikal Bridges. I said, yo. So, Boogie back to the crib. Went live within 30 minutes. We had 10,000 people watching.
Yeah.
On KFTV.
I was one of the people watching. I was one of the people watching from the Liberty, because then they hit at work, they hit me up and they're like, forget the Liberty content. We need you to talk about this trade immediately. So it's crazy. And then as I was doing Liberty content, I'm watching CP and the guys on there and they're showing them, listening to it on the way back home. Yeah, it was crazy. That was a crazy night.
It's interesting because you ask one Knicks fan how you feel about this season. They're like, nah, we lost iHeart. Yeah. It's going to be tough. Where does Julius Randle fit in? You ask another Knicks fan, it's the Nova Knicks, baby. We got Mikal. CP, you've always been like right down the middle with it. You're not, even though you're the biggest Knicks fan to me, you always stay unbiased in some ways, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about this season coming up? What are the expectations for you?
Yeah, I feel great, man. Like, my expectations are northwards of 50 wins and at least the top 3. Top 3 in the East. And I think anything short of the Eastern Conference Finals is a failure. It's not going to be perfect. I actually want to see them face adversity this season, face a couple of losses. How will the rotation issues sort themselves out? Will the center rotation be adequate for them? Like, I want to see them overcome those obstacles, because I feel like right now things are a little too good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like to knock them off a peg a little bit and just make sure that they're hungry, that they're locked in, and focus on their chemistry, because that's going to be important, the on-court chemistry. Like, the Nova Knicks stuff is great, but now when you add in a Mikal Bridges, who, borderline all-star player, who's going to command the ball and be a high-usage guy, how do you incorporate him into this? This isn't DiVincenzo like that pickup last year where he's just role player, plug and play, and just be ready to fire off threes. Like, Mikal Bridges, he's going to have to find his way, and how does that affect Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson as top guys as well? So that's going to be very interesting to see, man.
Speaking of Julius Randle, me and CP talked about this a little bit before the recording, and I'm always the guy to put Julius Randle in trade scenarios, but we'll push that to the side. We'll push that to the side for a little bit. How do you feel Julius fits into all of this?
Yeah, see, there's this talk combo that there's this concern about how Julius fits into all this, and I'm really not worried about this. I will look at the sample size. Granted, it was small that we saw in January, and I know this is without Bridges. I get all that. But what we saw of him in there and how he fit once OG came in, I think Julius fits fine. I think he's ready. I think he's going to be ready to fit in with this team. I don't think he's worried about it. They need Julius Randle. They need his shot creation and ability. If we get the Julius Randle that we saw here in New York, the most of last season, he was on his way. He was going to make another All-NBA team, I really believe, if he had stayed healthy. So if we get that kind of guy, I think he fits perfectly in. I think this is a team that, and CP and I talked about this in Vegas, this is a team that I think everybody knows their role. They have a ton of depth. They're very versatile, and this is why I'm high on this Knicks team and what they could do. I'm with CP on this a lot. I see north of 50 wins. I even told you the other day I see anywhere between 53 to 55 wins. I think this team could get the top seed in the East because I don't think Boston will have the pedal to the metal without Porzingis for the first part of the year. So, but I'm with CP on this. I think CP brings up a fantastic point. Adversity will be good for them this season. And the fans can't freak out when they see a 3-game losing streak if it happens, right? How they bounce back from that is going to matter. The reason I believe they can bounce back from that stuff is they've got a guy in Jalen Brunson who I trust the leadership. I think that he's not going to let this team falter. That's the thing. I trust the leadership on this team. When's the last time you said that about a Knicks team?
100%. Yeah. Optimism. I love it.
Optimism.
But CP, what's the biggest concern for this New York Knicks team?
There's a few, but certainly the center position is going to be a concern. You know, Mitch has been my guy since he got here, the elder statesman of the Knicks. You know, can't forget that. Mitchell Robinson's going into his 7th year with this team, which I think is incredible and great for him because he's a good kid and he deserves it. But his durability is questionable. Right now, as of this recording, he's not even cleared for a full contact going into training camp. So we got to see, is he even going to be ready for game 1? And if he is, that'll be great, but where do they go after that? Tom Thibodeau has said in an interview with NBA.com that he's willing to go small with Julius Randle at the 4-ish 5, 5 on the offensive side, but with OG guarding
in a starting role, you think?
I don't think it's something like, because what he said in the interview is that, he doesn't want to lean on that, which I expected, because you don't want to, first of all, those are your two guys coming back from injury with OG and Julius. You don't want to wear them down in the front court that way. But if there's, like he said, 10 to 15 minutes in a game where you can find advantages on both ends, go for it. Like, I even look at opening night in Boston. They can go to that because you have no Porzingis out there. You have an aging Al Horford. Behind him, who are you afraid of in that Celtics front court? Xavier Tillman, Luke Cornett. Like, they can go to that Julius and OG 4-5 matchup, and I think they will win in that regard. But you don't want to lean on that. So how he goes with that small ball, or is it a Precious at the backup 5, that to me is going to be the biggest weakness and concern that they may address at the trade deadline if things go awry.
I guess you got Precious. I guess you got Jericho Sims. Yeah. Do they need another insurance policy, Dexter, or they could go with those guys?
I think right now, I think a lot of Knicks fans will say yes, they do. You'd feel better if they had a true backup 5 that you believed in, right? Because the fan base isn't super high on Jericho Sims right now, although you hear that he's developing well and you're hearing that sort of stuff. We'll see. I think the Knicks are going to play it, which I think is the right move. They're going to play this the right way. They're going to play this out, I think, for the most of the first half, I would say first quarter of the season. See how things are, and then look to see if they need to tweak and make a move. The Knicks have done a fantastic job, if you look at it, of finding value trades 6 weeks before the deadline. Remember the Derrick Rose trade three seasons ago? You're talking about OG, when the value they got him at when they made the trade right before the new year. So they've done those kind of trades. I think they're going to keep an eye and look at how the team plays. I think to also what CP mentions, how they can play in small ball situations, right? When they can do it against certain teams. I don't think they're going to show it a lot, but that's a weapon that could be there for them in the playoffs. They will do it against certain matchups. I don't think the Knicks are going to panic on this, and I think whoever they do go and get, you're hearing a lot of names. Jonas Valanciunas.
So you think they will go get somebody?
I think they will if they see that there's a need to do it, right? If Precious looks good in the role, or you see Jericho Sims step in the role, I think they'll chill and keep their flexibility. But I think if they feel like, okay, we need to go get somebody, I think they will. I think it'll be a low-cost person because they still want to manage that flexibility with the second apron. So Nick Richards is somebody I like out in Charlotte that I think they can keep their eye on, that fits into the plans of what they want to do. I don't think they want to give up their depth because I think they know the depth is a strength. So I don't think the Knicks are going to panic on this, and I think it's the right move. I don't think they should. I think a lot of people are like, oh, they got to get a backup 5. They got to get a backup 5. They can, but I think they can also be patient with this.
CP, you think this team's going to really miss iHeart?
I will. You know,
Yeah.
and I think they will in certain respects. His ability to, operate out of that pinch post as a passer.
Yes.
His IQ on the offensive
There's less connective
side,
pieces this year, right?
A little bit less.
Yeah.
His teardrop was
Yeah.
good. You know, he's a guy with high efficiency floater. So I think in certain respects they will. Just his ability to open up the floor a little bit, which is what I'm going to be curious to see if they can continue that with Julius and with Jalen there and with Mitch in there. Because, like, if Randall could be like 37 or northwards from 3, that opens things up a
100%.
lot more. But if he's not going to be as efficient from 3, I think it could get a little bit tricky and the paint could get a little bit clogged, especially when you put Mitchell Robinson in there. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think they will miss iHeart. But, you got to pay to play. Like, it's hard to be stacked at every position.
That's true.
Boston had that. They had that embarrassment of riches. But for the Knicks, you had to invest in some areas, and it's going to impact others, and you're going to have to see if you can kind of get by there. So for them, they're limited in terms of the draft capital that they have to deploy and the tradable contracts that you have to deploy. I mean, right now it's McBride, who's around $3 million. It's Precious, who's around $6 million. It's Mitch, who's in the teens. I think he's around like 11 to 12 million. So you're not going to trade the Nova guys. You're not going to trade OG. You're not going to trade Randall yet. So, like, they don't have much to work with. So that's why they're going to have to see what they can do at that 5 spot right now, what they have. Because if they do, once they do make that trade deadline move, even one of those guys like a Valanciunas or, you're going to have to put money into that.
Right. And
Yeah.
I'm going to cut you off.
No,
Valanciunas is on a tradable contract, right? 3 years, $30 million.
iHeart replacement.
But here, see,
Not as athletic right now, though.
not as athletic, not as good as a defender, right?
Right.
I think to what CP said, and you kind of brought up, Combo, is the thing they're really going to miss with iHeart, and if you look at it, was how he worked in the pick and roll with Brunson, how good his passing was. Like, the passing, the shot blocking, the defense, all that stuff matters. I think what the Knicks are going to do, they're going to look for a very specific kind of backup 5 that if hopefully can replace, which is hard.
Yeah, like, is there anybody like iHeart?
No.
I can't even, like, I was thinking about, like, connective pieces at his size in the league, and I couldn't really think of anybody that's not an all-star. Like, yeah, Bam's like that, but I mean, like, that's unrealistic. Is there anybody like that?
Yeah, and that's a pass. It's his passing, and just the versatility he gave you in the pick and roll. That's what I think they're going to miss the most. Can they get that someplace else? Now, I'll tell you, I mentioned Huck Purdy and how I liked him in summer league. That was some of the stuff I saw from him in the pick and roll. The passing actually really impressed me there, and I think he's an underrated passer. He's not ready. Could he develop into that? I don't know if it'll happen this season, but I think that's the thing I want to see. Can the Knicks find that? Now, again, I don't know who that person is. I don't think it's Valanciunas, who I'm not in love with the Knicks making that move. That seems like a move just to make a move.
Good passer, though, no?
Yeah, but he doesn't give you what you want on the other end, right? And that's the thing that you had with iHeart, which was such a great value for them. It's like he's going to give you a little bit offensively. That's much different than Mitch, who's just a rim runner. I won't say just a rim runner, but you get my point in terms of his offensive skill set. And with iHeart, he just gives you a little bit more diversity. And I think that's hard to find, to your point, though.
Yes.
It's hard to find.
Very tough. You guys are naming all these guys on the Knicks, and they're so deep. And when you have a deep team, there's tough decisions to be made. CP, have you thought about a clear-cut starting 5? Is there a clear-cut starting 5, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely Brunson, Bridges, OG, Randall, Mitch.
But Mitch will be good to start out, you think?
If he is. If not, then I think it's definitely Precious. Then you're
a little small, right?
You're a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
But on some nights, like I said, you'll be fine. Like against Boston, you'll be fine. Against Philadelphia, might be an issue.
Yeah.
Right? Then it's more the Precious Sims platoon. Against Denver, it's a little bit of an issue. But I think for the most part, like when you look across the East, Boston, Indiana, those the Miami Heat, like you should be good with Precious at the 5. Now, when you're playing the Milwaukee Bucks or you're playing, you're playing Philly, it'll get a little bit tricky there. That's where Sims, you're gonna have to hope to see a major development there from Sims on both ends of the floor in year 3 for him.
Biggest threats of the season, the Knicks. Don't forget about the Bucks, CP.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think some people have been sleeping on the Bucks, and I think I will say that year 2 with Dame and Giannis, I expect them to be better.
Yes.
I think the Knicks are the
You
team.
seen Dame working out with David Goggins?
I've
Come
seen
on,
that.
Man. He's ready, man.
He looks ready. I'm not going to shame Dame for the off-season workout videos. I get tired of those videos sometimes. You know what I mean? Remember, Mitchell Robinson was shooting threes a couple years ago. We still ain't seen that.
We haven't even got to Ben Simmons yet.
No, please,
Yeah.
don't.
Chris Brickley said, "Hey, he's ready."
Brickley's hyping him, man. He's hyping him.
Come on now.
He's hyping him.
Come on. And I like Chris, and Chris has been on my show. We need to. Ben Simmons has to stay healthy and stay in the court. I'll say that. How about that? We see that. Are they the biggest threat? I think that the Knicks match up the best with Boston because of all the concerns that we're talking about with a backup five. I think one of the things that's underrated, and CP is the first person that had me thinking about this in Vegas when we did the show in the studio. You talked about, all right, they've got Wingstop now, right? They've got these guys. Well, if you can stop guys from getting to the rim, you don't need the rim protection as much as you would think.
True.
The Knicks are going to be very hard to drive on because of the level of defense they have with OG Anunoby, with Mikal Bridges. And you got to think, even in some lineups, if they ever throw Josh Hart out there, I mean, that's 3 really good wing defenders. We didn't even bring up McBride. There's guys that could defend. So the Knicks perimeter D, I expect it to be so good. That's what it takes a lot to stop Boston because they're so versatile with Brown, with Tatum, with Drew Holiday, with Derek Wright. You need wings. And I think the Knicks do match up the best with Boston to really push them because I think they can give that physicality and they can also add that defense on the perimeter that you need.
I think, Milwaukee Bucks. You were on them all last year on the NBA report.
Yo, bro,
man.
they thought on the NBA report they thought
Yeah.
I was born in Milwaukee, bro.
Yeah. But I think
But I said this a million times. I just believed in Dame and Giannis' playoff performers more than any other duo in the East. That was my thing. Like if those two guys get clicking, I mean it's tough.
Yeah,
I get that.
And the fact that they were the 3rd seed in the East, despite all the turmoil, coaching change, and lack of chemistry, they still had a great offense.
Doc taking dude's job.
Right, Middleton missing a lot of time, and they were still the 3rd seed in the East.
Yeah.
So this year, you have all 3 of those guys coming back. Now, the health of all 3 of those guys is going to be important, obviously, and a question mark. Brooke Lopez as well. But I think they got some more depth. They added Delon Wright. They added Gary Trent Jr.
Taurean Prince.
They added Taurean Prince there. So I like the depth that they added. And so they're going to be, to me, a wild card in the East that you can't just write off because I think as of, this instant gratification conversations that we have around the league, we automatically just throw a team aside after 1 year of, unsuccessful campaign. But you can't really do that. You know what I mean? We did that with Dallas. And what they do after that first year of failure with Kyrie, they went to the finals. When they tweaked the pieces, they added more complementary players. They went to the finals in the West. So I wouldn't be so quick to just throw that team out there, because they have Doc Rivers and all that. I think they still deserve respect.
So the Knicks should be projected as the team that could take down the C's? Are they that team? Are they the best chance to take them down? I mean, I felt like they were tailor-made last year to take them out. They just
Yeah.
They just couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't healthy.
Celtics fans would say, Porzingis wasn't healthy for most of this
And he
and
won't
that.
be. He won't be this year.
And he won't be this year, right?
Were you guys happy to see him limp his way to a title? I was kind of happy for him.
I was happy for him.
Yeah, I was happy for him.
I was happy for him because
Yeah.
I always liked when the Knicks had the chance to draft KP. I liked that pick. I loved that pick. I was asking.
Remember the
for him to draft
Rappaport
him.
thing?
Yeah, I do. I did. He's crazy. I love that pick. And listen, once a Knick, always a Knick. Like to see him win. I wish it didn't end the way it did, but ownership. And hopefully, now he's got his ring. And we'll see what the Knicks can do to dethrone him. But yeah, I was happy to see him get his ring. I wasn't mad at that.
How we feeling about the Celtics? Tatum doesn't get burned in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Brown doesn't even get the nod in the Olympics. I thought Derek White was the perfect fit, and he played really well. But I do also feel like, often it's human nature to take maybe a step back or two once you win one. You kind of start to relax. But their 2 best players, now they have a chip on their shoulder. Does that make them even more dangerous this year?
I think so. And Mazzulla, man. Mazzulla showed he's maniacal with his preparation and how he approaches the game. And so I don't think he will let them take their foot off the gas. Now, the Porzingis injury, how they move without him is going to be very interesting because at some point, Father Time has to catch up with Al Horford. I don't know how long.
But then in spurts, he just seems like same old Al Horford.
It's same old Al Horford, man.
Yeah.
So, we got to see how they move without Porzingis because it seems like he's going to be out for at least the first half of the season or close to it. You know
Probably
what I mean?
more knowing him, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, but the way I look at it with the Celtics and their injury, Philly, you have to think that the process is going to be on some sort of load management. Paul George with his injury history, how they're going to manage the minutes with them. Milwaukee as well. Like, I just feel like of all those contending teams in the East, the Knicks will be the only team that is going to take this thing pedal to the metal for all 82 games. And that's why I think they'll have a great chance of cracking the second seed or even the first, even taking the East in the regular season, just because of the way that they play, because Tibbs doesn't do that load manager stuff. If you're healthy, if you're active, you're going to play, and they're going to play hard.
Yeah, I think the Knicks are tailor-made to get a top 2 seed. I'm agreeing with CP on that. But even if the Celtics, let's say they finish third best record in the East, I would not be sleeping on them. They don't need to go pedal to the metal before. They've been through the playoff wars. That group has a lot of playoff experience. They're guys now with championship experience on there. They know what it takes to win. If they need to get in the Game 7 on the road at the Garden, they're not going to be shook, right? They're not going to be shook anywhere that they'll play. And we've seen some big-time performances from those guys. So I'm not sleeping on the Celtics. I do think it's a good point about Father Time with Al Horford, because that's what they have to manage early in the season in terms of Boston. What are they doing at that 4-5 position? How are you stealing some of those minutes? And they're going to probably want to load manage Horford and not rush Porzingis back, right? Because their goal, like everybody else, is to be healthy by the playoffs, which is one concern I have with the Knicks, CP, which is if you're Tibbs this year, I'm hoping you go just a little bit deeper in some games, right? Can we get to 9, 10 guys that are playing every night so that you can, because you have the depth.
Yeah.
And you want to get through this and get as much wins as possible. I'm all for the Knicks doing that. But I think they just got to be smart about doing it so they don't have a lot of the injury problems they had last year. Although I think Tibbs gets way too much bad of a rap for that. That's not necessarily all that fair. I do think that's something they want to watch and how they manage that.
One team we haven't talked about who had a great playoff series. I was actually in the building at the Knicks Fan TV parties for this one, Philly versus New York. Well, great series, probably the best series of the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That was great. Yeah.
PG-13, how much does that move the needle for them? Wendy comes out and says, "Oh, we're going to talk about PG-13 every year," and then they end up not winning. Like, how dangerous is this team with PG-13?
Very.
You think you feel like they're very dangerous? Do you like their bench?
I do. I do like their bench, but it's still all going to fall on the health of Joel Embiid.
That's what I'm saying. Unfortunately, I don't believe in it.
You don't trust it.
Yeah,
Right.
he looked heavy in the Olympics. He only had one good game.
Not the way that he plays. You know, the way that he plays, he's always going to be susceptible to injury. And I just don't trust it. 82 games, it's hard, man. It's hard to get to April and be, 90% healthy. Like, he just wasn't healthy last year. PG's a great upgrade for them. And it was a wing that they needed. And he'll be great for them if Embiid is still healthy at the time of the playoffs.
And he's got his own health issues too, right, with PG. And, we'll see. Now, I think the Knicks still match up pretty well against them if they are healthy because they have somebody that could throw on Maxey. Maxey's a handful. I love Maxey. But, yeah, listen, on paper, Philly should be dangerous. But are they going to be healthy? I'm with CP on that, particularly their main man, Embiid. Absolute talent, one of the best big men in the league, probably the next best big man in the league outside of Jokic. But, yeah, is he going to be there and be healthy? We just haven't seen it.
The biggest X factor for the Knicks to win a championship. Do you believe they're legit contenders, first of all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
What's the biggest X factor for them outside of that backup 5 position?
Julius. Julius. Because outside of Jalen Brunson, he's their bona fide everything guy. Shot creator, scorer, guy that can go inside, get a bucket inside, get to the free throw line, draw contact. Like, you need that, especially in the playoffs when it's a grind and everybody's barreling down on you defensively, everybody's running you off the three-point line. That's when you need your creators to go out there and make it happen for the team. And this is a guy who draws some of the highest in terms of double teams in the league. That's going to continue in the playoffs. Can he exercise those demons? What Knicks fans will tell you is that, well, his ankle was injured during the Miami thing 2 years ago, and during the Hawks thing, he was the only guy out there. So, all right, it's money time for him. You know what I mean? Like, whatever the excuse is that people want to make for him, the numbers speak for itself. Like, he has not had playoff success. Whatever you want to attribute to that, those could all be valid, but he still needs to prove that. And this is why he doesn't have a contract extension. And that this is his time. This is contract year, man. Go out there and get it done. They need him. He's going to be the wild card.
In life, you either do it or you don't.
You don't or you don't.
But do you believe in playoff Julius, Dexter?
I do. I think Julius might, because you can bring up everything that CP said you hear from the fans, whether he hasn't been healthy. The series against the Hawks, he was the only guy. I get all that stuff. And I'll probably give him more of the pass on the series against the Hawks. But at some point, We saw Jalen Brunson out there. I hate to really compare players sometimes on the same team. We've seen that man hobbled and putting up gutsy performances. And here in New York, you got to step up and get it done, right? So I'm with CP that I think Julius is the biggest X factor for them this season, particularly when it comes to the playoffs. If I had to take somebody else, I'm going to say OG Anunoby, because he's also got to be healthy. If this Knicks team is healthy, and Julius is doing the things in the playoffs that CP said that we know he could do at a high level, at least in the regular season, then I think I look at OG, because it's like if he's healthy, then he's the guy who could defend at a high level. He can hit the open shot. He's great at hitting the corner three. If he's doing that, it's such a huge weapon for the Knicks. He could almost be that connector for them offensively, where it's like, oh, I got to worry about Brunson. Oh, I got to worry about Julius. Oh, I got to worry about Bridges, who I didn't even talk about there.
No weakness.
Now, who are you forgetting about? When they rotate the ball, you double one guy. Oh, there it is. His OG's in the corner, and he's splash. He's knocking it down. Oh, he can lock up another guy to end. Remember, were you at Game 4 in Philly? You were down at Game 4 in Philly, right?
Yeah.
Remember in that game, and Tibbs goes small in that game, and Precious and OG closed things out, and OG is guarding Joel Embiid. I understand Embiid wasn't 100%, but he did a fantastic job, and that's why I put him as the next X factor, because he can guard 1 through 5. He can hit that open shot. I would say right after Randall, I'm with CP. I think CP nailed it. I think Randall's the X factor, but right after that, I'm putting OG.
A lot of this depends on how Julius buys in, right? Because it feels like everybody else on the Knicks team has incentive to buy in. Like, they all know each other. There's obviously a lot of Villanova players. The younger players are going to buy in. It really depends upon if, like, Julius Randle says, I don't want to say he's not a role player, but, like, how am I going to fit on this team?
I don't think, but I think
You think Julius should just be Julius and everybody fits around him in a way?
No, I think he doesn't get enough credit for actually how he played last year. He struggled in the beginning shooting, and then he adapted. And then the point I brought up earlier, once OG came in, he adapted. He has clearly deferred and understood this is Brunson's team. He has not made any bones about that.
Do you believe like he believes that in his own head, though?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I actually do. I actually really do. I think he understands where he is in the pecking order. Do I think he comes in this season and is like, yo, I expect to be a number 2? Yes. And he should be, right? Like, he should be. Now, is there a world where we could see Mikal Bridges emerges as that clear number 2 and Julius is a number 3? Yeah, but I think the point of your question is, like, if that happens, does that necessarily...
Okay, I'll take number 2, but now number 3, man? I thought I was all NBA.
That's a legitimate question, but for me personally, I think Julius Randle buys in. That's actually not a concern for me. I don't know if it is for you. It's not a concern for me. You know what I think happens? I think there's still a lot of hangover from fans. He gave the thumbs down a couple of years ago, which was a bad look. There's no doubt about it. You can't have it. So you talk about it a lot on Knicks Fan TV. You couldn't have it. And I think I think Julius gets misunderstood a little bit about being selfish. I don't think he's a selfish guy. I think he's bought in. I think he understands what this team is, and I think he understands the opportunity. I also think that would be stupid. You said contract year.
That
you know the
is.
time
He's
frame
not expiring.
you're trying to get paid. Well, he can have player option.
Okay.
But you're trying to get paid. So I'm like, you better buy in. You know what I'm saying? Like, you better buy in, because this is not the time for that, for a multitude of reasons. For just the fact of where the franchise is, where the team is, and also personally, he's trying to get the bag. So there's no time for that.
Specifically, where do you see him having to adjust, or does he just play Randall's game?
Shooting efficiency. The two biggest weaknesses that I've always carried with him is his decision making has been inconsistent. He's a high turnover guy, and his shooting efficiency. It comes and goes. If he can clean that up, he'll be in great shape. I mean, he's 25 and 10. This is an all-star. His decision-making, man. When he's on, he's lights out. You know what I mean? But when he's off, it could get a little bit dicey. So that's where. But, when we saw them clicking in January, everything was rolling. That's what you want to see carry over. But like I said, in the playoffs, it's an endurance test. So when you're physically worn down, when you're mentally worn down, that's when the superstars really emerge, and that is why Brunson has claimed that as his team and as his true superstar. Because when the light is brightest and hottest, he stepped up. 4 games, 40-plus against Indiana. Like, he's dragging bum knee, bum hand. Like, he's doing everything he can. But that's what superstars do. And that's what I want to see Julius do in the bright spot. Money time, man.
Last time CP last time me and CP were here, Dexter, we talked about who was the greatest Knick ever. And I think we actually agreed upon it being Patrick Ewing. But if the Knicks win a championship this year, does Brunson get in that mix, especially if he's playing at an MVP level?
Yo, that is a really good question. That's probably one of the better questions I've ever heard around the Knicks. He is already, in my opinion, the second best point guard in Knicks franchise history. I'm putting him right behind Clyde. Clyde's going to be over him because he's got the 2 rings. And I'm not a big, you got to win a ring. So that's actually where I agree with you guys on Patrick Ewing being the greatest player. I'm fine with that.
Right. Sometimes we put too much stock on.
Yeah, I think sometimes
we're
too much on
comparing
rings
individual
culture.
talent.
Yeah,
but he was a great two-way player too.
Yeah,
which,
a great two-way player.
Absolutely. And and so was Clyde. So I don't want to.
No, that's what I mean. Clyde was a great two-way player.
Clyde was a great two-way player too, right? Yeah. Where does that put him?
Yeah, wins a championship, MVP type season, brings a championship back to the Knicks.
See, the thing about it, the thing I think with that question, right, is he brings a championship to a team that hasn't had it since 1973. It is always whoever did that here in New York and for the Knicks, they might put a statue for you outside the garden.
Oh yeah, easily.
Like they might put a statue for him already because he took that discount on the contract. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like Knicks fans are ready to put the statue out there for him. Yeah, I think it would be hard to say if he wins the title this year. I'll even say the year after. If he gets 1, it's hard to say he's not top 3. It's hard. It's really hard to say. Really hard to argue against that, considering what was at stake, the length of the drought, and I'm also assuming that in that run to win a title, we'd see more big moments from Brunson because we've already
100%.
seen big moments from Brunson right in the playoffs. So there's no reason for us to think that we wouldn't see more big moments.
Yeah,
he does that. Yes, it's hard to not have him in the top 3. He wins 2. Well, I mean, not because you and Clyde. Right? And you have 2. What are you going to say? And then to do it to me in this era, to do it as a undersized point guard that was a 2nd-round draft pick that people have constantly doubted and is, I would say, a fringe superstar right now and could be a superstar this year, because I expect Brunson to be in the MVP conversation again this year. I really do.
Do you think his stats might take a little step back because they're more deep?
Yes, but I think the key that you should look at, as CP mentioned with Julius Randle, the key I'd be looking at is he more efficient? That's the key. Can the assists go up, which I think it should? Is the shooting efficiency up because there's a little less stress on him in terms of shot creation? I think that can happen. I think there's a way his counting stats cannot look as gaudy as it did last year, but he actually could have a better season. Yeah.
Shouts to 7 p.m. in Brooklyn. Is he already the better Knick than Carmelo Anthony, Jalen Brunson, or Carmelo Anthony? Who do you got?
You love these hot take questions. I like this.
I'm Team Melo.
I haven't been rapping like common sense.
Yes, you have.
Don't leave me hanging, Dexter.
I got you. That's a good one.
One more year playoff success, I'll give it to him. Yeah, because I felt like Melo did more with less.
I mean, Carmelo Anthony to me is the better basketball player.
Yeah.
But in terms of just the New York Knicks, I'm going to go with Brunson.
Finished 3rd in MVP voting, 2012, 2013.
Which was a fantastic season.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of basketball player, I can't put Brunson over Carmelo.
Scoring titles, almost got it.
But the vibes that Brunson has brought to the Knicks.
Yeah, different vibes.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, Carmelo came in a chaotic time when the team wasn't
it chaotic when Brunson came in? He kind of changed everything around.
No, I feel like
it was starting to change. Things were starting to change. You know what I mean?
He changed it though. He is almost the culture. It's a Nova culture and it's a Jalen Brunson culture, especially with his dad on the sideline.
Yeah,
but that's what's going to be interesting though, and that's what might separate. You know, CP said maybe in a year or another playoff run that might change his mind, and I could see that is because of the leadership. And listen, I'm not a Yankees fan. CP is, and I'm saying this to somebody who watched the Yankees, used to be a big time Yankee hater. Jalen Brunson gives me Jeter vibes.
Sure.
He gives me Jeter vibes, and that's part of the reason I believe in that. I try to. I'm not even a Yankee fan, but he really gives me Jeter vibes. It's that leadership. And now, would Carmelo have thrived if he had this competent management around him? Yeah, I really believe so. Absolutely, yeah. Because one of the things I think wasn't unfair to Carmelo was people like, oh, he's not a good leader and all this stuff. I never heard a teammate complain about Carmelo.
True.
I never heard a
He was the most
teammate
respected
complain
player in the
about
locker room,
Carmelo.
man.
I've heard people respect that dude. Do I think he was a strong vocal leader? I think people lead in different ways. I'm a big believer in that. There's many different ways to lead. There's many different ways to be great at different things. I think Carmelo was great. I just think I think he did amazing despite the incompetence from the front office. That's what I'll say. Like, if you kind of look at it that way, you actually need to respect what he did despite the incompetence around him. Not players on the court necessarily. The front office. They went and got that man Andrea Bargnani.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Man.
You know what I'm saying? Like that. Like, it's different. Like Brunson is a shrewd move in getting it, not just because of the connections, but because of the front office, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's part of a shrewd move that the Knicks weren't.
I don't even think the Knicks thought Brunson would be this good.
No, I don't think so either. But I don't think most people that covered the team or fans, I don't think any of us. I think we thought he could be good. I was like, man, if they sign him and he's a fringe all-star, that's dope. Now we're talking fringe superstar, like I said earlier. We're talking expectations for him to be in the MVP conversation, which, based on what we saw last year, is that crazy? Nah, it's
Definitely not.
So CP,
I like that question though. It's a good question.
Come on, man. I only ask the good questions.
Nah, you do. You like to make it spicy. I know that about you.
Got to, especially for the short form, you got to throw some stuff in there.
What was the take you said when you came up with me? What'd you say about Vic?
No, I said Soto's leaving.
No. Victor Wembanyama.
I mean, the Spurs will make the playoffs this year. Victor's going to be a top 10 NBA player.
You said top 10 or top 5?
Well, top 10 is top 5 too, right? They're both. He's both.
Okay.
How about that?
All right, he said that. It was good. That was a good take. I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, look, they added CP3, they added Harrison Barnes.
Well, I had expectations for Wemby this year.
I liked it.
Like, I feel like with CP3, it's the perfect fit. I know he's aging, but I feel like the fit will defy the age. Like, think about how many lobs Wemby's going to get. They had Jeremy Sohan playing point guard, bro.
They didn't have somebody competent to get him the ball. That was a bit. Yeah, I love that move. I love the move. Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack the ball. You made that take. And I liked it. Yeah.
But CP, you do a great job of covering the media. I mean, we got worst take, right?
Yeah.
Woj dropped the biggest bomb yesterday. Were you surprised?
No.
How you feel about that, man?
Yeah, big surprise. I don't think anybody was expecting it. But, changes happen so quickly in this industry, as you guys know, man.
Yeah.
But clearly, he was looking for more work-life balance. And, like, as Adam Schefter alluded to, like, being an insider it's
crazy,
not for the
right?
faint of heart.
No.
You basically got to be on, like, all day, every day. Even our guy Ian Begley, man. When you see Ian Begley around, like, a trade deadline or draft, I mean, he's like this. Like, he's doing a podcast, but he's on his phone every second, tracking and texting and all of this. So it's a tough job. They even said he left like $20 million on the table. So he's going back to St. Bonaventures, his alma mater, to be a GM. Some people think he's trying to propel himself into a management role, into the NBA. I think, look, if Amazon backs up to bring truck for him when the new TV deal kicks in, you could see him as next insider for their NBA coverage. So you just never know. He gives himself some flexibility, give himself some time off, and then kind of figure out where he wants to go from there.
I feel like with what we do, like, we don't take any days off, but that type of job, Dexter, is like really different. You have to be on your phone all day. If you take a nap, something could drop 2 a.m. I mean, It doesn't feel like the most healthy lifestyle when it comes to like mental health.
No, and I was glad that Woj said what he said in his statement that he released, right? And then also that Adam Schefter backed that up, because as somebody who's worked in journalism, sports broadcast for 20 years, yes, you're right. And all of us that create content.
Congrats,
I don't think
by the way. That's a long time.
Yeah, almost 20 years now. It doesn't feel that long, right?
Yeah.
But it's a lot of work. I say this to CP all the time. CP and I were talking about this the last time he was up in studio meeting. I was like, yo, man, people don't realize the work that you do and you put in. Like, I've seen it because I've worked on independently creating my own content. I don't think he gets enough credit for that.
Man, I've been working with Knicks Fan TV and the NBA Report. I mean, he's a beast, bro. And like, the people don't see the meetings.
Nah, they don't.
The people that work for him behind the scenes.
They don't see that.
But what I love about CP, and I think it's a great motto to have, like, he only cares about the experience that the fans have with his platform. He's not telling everybody about the hard work, but I've seen the hard work firsthand.
But I make sure, and CP, I said this to you, and that's why I make sure, and I'm glad we're talking about it now, I always make sure to give you your flowers on that, because I think a lot of times when you're creating content, whether it's you having us on, me having you guys on my show, and vice versa, people don't see, like, there's preparation to that. There's reaching out to people. There's building relationships, contacts, all that stuff.
You don't just sit down and talk.
Nah. So take that and then take Woj's job, or Shams, or my guy Chris Haynes, right? Guys who are insiders, Adam Schefter. Yo, you are on all the time. right? You heard Schefter talking about having your phone outside when you're taking a shower because you can't miss anything. That's real. I've heard that from these guys. I've been around some of these guys. I've seen that. Right, you talk Ian Begley, my longtime friend. Ian Begley and I have been doing this as long as we've known each other together.
That's the Ian. Yeah.
Ian, come trade deadline, he's on the phone. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'll be around and he's like, Dex, sorry. I'm like, bro, I like Kill apologize because Ian's a great dude, but it's like, nah, man, I get it. I've been doing it. It's a different life. And when you're at the level Woj is at, think about all the relationships he's built, all the GMs he's got to talk to, scouts. You got to know everybody in these organizations. So when something happens, you're like, okay. And you know it, and he's breaking his news. Like, all of us have seen how much news has Woj broke that we saw. So what I'll say is kudos to him for choosing his work-life balance and whatever peace he wants in his life now. He's 55 years old. I think it's dope that he chose his peace and he got to go back and work for his alma mater. And who knows what that could parlay into. I think the other thing to think about that, not to be long-winded, there's so much that you can do out of journalism, content creation. There's so many doors that can be open. It's something CP was talking to the students at the Sports Business Journal, and I was talking to Howard Beck about. There's so many doors that can be open for you, and that's the beauty of it. You don't have to be boxed into one thing. That's really dope.
Yeah, it could create opportunities that you couldn't even imagine.
There's things I've done in my career I didn't imagine. CP and I were talking about there's things with Knicks Fan TV that you probably didn't think 4 or 5 years ago that you would be at or do, or doors you would open. But it's dope if you work hard, if you, to your point, you said put the fans first. I think that's the key. Put your viewers and the fans first and be authentic. I really believe that's the key.
CP, before we get out here, I'd like to ask you a content creation question. I mean, you've almost built a machine now with Knicks Fan TV. When was the moment you realized that you needed to start delegating tasks? Was there signals for like other content creators that might need to build a team eventually?
Yeah, I think for me it was like as I was still trying to maintain a 9-to-5, but then at the same time, like I'm prepping for a game, I'm doing homework before the game, I'm watching the game, I'm doing the show. After the show, I'm posting a podcast, I'm editing social media clips. So I was wearing all the hats.
You didn't even talk about reaching out to guests yet.
Yeah, that's before you even reach out to people over the course of the day to plan for the week.
You can't even think of everything you're doing. It's so crazy.
And I'm a VP at an investment bank. Like I'm responsible for other people as well.
Right.
So that's not even a 9-to-5. That's like 8 to 8. But at the same time, I'm trying to prep and then do post-production prep. So after a while, it takes a toll. Like it's a grind, and you love what you're doing. But after a while, it's like, so little by little, I started kind of taking things off my hands.
When do you start to realize, I need to delegate tasks, like specifically?
When you start that burnout happens, because it happens. It happens every once in a while. Even now, like every once in a while, I'm like, I know when I got to take the foot off the gas and like take a break, go somewhere, go on vacation, just like reset.
Do you ever take a full day off? Probably not. Probably not.
Even when I'm on, even when I was in Croatia, I'm going live talking about Preston and Chua coming back live from my hotel room. No lights, laptop camera, but hey, we making it work. We tapping in with the people wherever we at. So, but I think the beauty of it is over time, like a lot of the stuff that we've delegated have come from people who reach out to us. So we never had to we looking for this. Nah, people come to us like, yo, this is what I do. This is my brick and how I'm trying to bring it to
I think that even happened with us a little bit. Like, yo, let's create a show,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Alex,
shouts the NBA report.
Alex Gamba, Tyler, Jalen, all those guys have come to us like, yo, I want to get involved. And so it's been easy. We've been blessed to, have talented people who are passionate about what we do and take ownership about what we do, because that's what makes it more productive for sure.
So, Dexter, all right, last thing, Dexter. You asked me for my NBA hot take, all right?
Here we go.
So, let's talk a little New York sports. Let's go non-basketball.
Okay.
What's your New York sports hot take that everybody needs to hear right now on Combo's Court? You like the radio voice?
I like the radio voice. My New York sports hot take. Something popped in my mind. I'm not sure it's the craziest hot take. I'm gonna give you two things.
All right, yeah, I like that.
First one is the New York team that is closest to winning the championship is not the Knicks.
Whoa.
That should get more respect is the New York Liberty.
Oh.
They are the closest New York team to winning the championship, and I think they get it done this year.
Really?
New York, it's a good time for New York basketball.
Top of the Aces. Aces run is over.
Ace's run is over. It's ended. I think the Liberty get it done this year is focused. I think it'd be a great story for women's basketball in New York. I think it'll only fuel more talk about the Knicks trying to get it done. So I think the Liberty are the team closest to winning that. My second hot take, this is not going to make CP happy. But he's my guy. I'm not saying this is going to happen fully. So I'm not saying this only all my chest. But I think the New York Mets are a legit threat to pry Juan Soto away from the Yankees.
Man. Wasn't that my take on SNY TV?
You did say that. And I was not with you at the time. I'm a little more on it now. Listen, what I'm saying, here's the caveat. Let me also say this. And CP would agree, because CP had some great Yankee points when he came on with me on the Rapid Rundown recently, which you have been on also. You guys have to come back. I think a lot of it, though, the Yankees keeping Juan Soto is going to be on how he performs in the playoffs. If Juan Soto is big time in the playoffs, which I actually have this feeling he's going to be, then I don't think anybody's going to have a chance, because I think the Yankees could sell him on, look, you know what it's like playing here in the Bronx. You know what it's like being in the Pinstripes. You understand your tradition. We could put you in Monument Park. That's a Yankee selling point that they don't have. The Mets got the money with Cohen, no doubt.
Right.
But if he plays well, I think it's good. If it's shaky for the Yankees in the postseason, I think the Mets, I'm not saying they'll get it done, but I think they could really mess things up by getting in there with him, and that's going to make CP sweat just a little bit. Just a little bit. It's going to make CP sweat. Because CP a couple weeks ago was already annoyed. He was annoyed with the Yankees. He's like, I don't know, Dex. I don't know if this is going to happen. I mean, hey, clinch a playoff spot, though.
They did, man.
But you're still, you're looking, you're still like, man, I don't know.
I just don't see bona fide in their pitching, in their bullpen. I need that. That's what the Yankee teams of old had. And I just don't even know. Like, even Cole might be a little
But I asked you that. I said to you, if they finish hot, and they have been through a recently good stretch.
They are.
I said at the end of September, you still were like, nah, I got to still see it in the playoffs. And I feel you on that.
Man, I just don't trust them.
You don't trust them?
I don't trust them. I don't trust the starting rotation. I don't trust the bullpen. I don't trust, like, Rodon. I don't trust these guys.
But if Juan Soto leaves and goes to the Mets, CP's not going to be happy.
I got to bring that clip back up.
CP's not going to be happy.
that was a great moment for me to be able to talk more than basketball. Like, I really appreciate you giving me that moment.
I appreciate you for saying that. And it's funny, I was talking to CP about this. One of the things some people like when they come on that show in particular is that, like, they'll be like, oh, I know CP, I know Combo. They talk hoops. But to see them talk different sports, I think people appreciate that. And I know the people that the guests come on, who I know you guys know a ton of sports, it's good to talk to you guys about something. I love talking hoops more than anything. Yeah. But I love seeing that. I love seeing that from my guests, that, like, show some people that you could do some more, because I know you guys are talented and you could do so much more.
Thank you.
So I appreciate the fact that you take that out of the show. Means it's doing what it's supposed to do. So I appreciate that from y'all.
Thank you for that opportunity, and thanks for all the opportunities both you guys have given me over the years. I mean, I've worked with CP closely, and it's always great working with CP. Been on your show, which I told you was one of my favorite moments of the summer. So let's just continue to build. You guys are always welcome back on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Let us know where we can find you, CP.
Yeah, man. YouTube.com, Knicks Fan TV, YouTube/the NBA Report, Knicks Fan TV on all social media platforms, CP the Fanchise, all social media platforms, man. So appreciate it.
Dexter? You can find me on New York Post, SNY YouTube channels, at D Henry TV on all social media platforms, also hosting the UFX on Fox Sports, calisthenics competition. Check that out. It's good, and thank y'all for having me, man. I always love to be, both of you guys are two of my favorites in the industry.
Likewise.
So it's great to sit here and talk with both of y'all. So blessings. So thank you.
Appreciate both of you guys tremendously. Talk soon. You're always welcome back on the show. We're out. Peace.